Good evening. I'm pleased to open Seashelt's eTown Hall on our proposed 2017-2021 financial plan. I'd like to welcome all of those that are in attendance here at the district office and those who have tuned in to watch us on YouTube. At the moment, I understand we have more people watching than we have here with us tonight, but that'll change as the night goes on. This is one of several events designed to engage with the public on the development of our 5-year financial plan, and in particular, our 2017 budget. The public is encouraged to visit seashelt.ca and click on the eTown Hall icon to access the webpage that outlines how to participate in this event via your computer or your mobile device. Don't drive when you're accessing your mobile device, because the budgeting discussions can be quite riveting, and we don't want anybody to be distracted while you're driving. The Budget 2017 page on our site has resources that include the full draft of the financial plan. It also has links to videos from previous committee and council meetings at which the plan has been discussed, and links to our online input form. And it's the input that we want tonight and over the next while that is most important. We have been receiving input for this eTown Hall over the past 2 weeks. Online participants can submit budget-related comments or questions anytime during tonight's meeting. We will be bringing that input forward throughout this event, as well as encouraging our live audience to engage with us throughout the evening. At input points, if anyone from our live audience has a question, we ask that they take the seat at the delegation table, which is in front of us here. Once you're recognized by the meeting chair or the person who's doing the presentation at that time, please use the microphone provided so that your question can be heard not only by those in the room, but by our online audience and on the video recording of this event. If we do not have an opportunity to address all input received, staff will be responding by email after the event. We will keep the input form live and will continue to respond to items received up to the time the plan is adopted. And adoption for the financial plan is slated to be completed by May 12th. In attendance tonight, we have a majority of our council members. If the screenshot is wide enough, I'd just like to introduce Councillor Doug Wright, Councillor Alice Lutz, and Councillor Darnelda Seegers. Other councillors send their regrets, but they will be watching the YouTube, punishment for not being here. And I know that they'll try and keep themselves informed as we go through on the decisions about the financial plan. We also have a number of district staff members who have been responsible for the development of the draft plan and the public consultation process. Our Chief Financial Officer, to my right, Doug Stewart, will be presenting an overview of the plan following this introduction. Finance Manager Ben Curry sitting next to him, District Engineer Sanath Bandera next to him, IT Manager Beverly Elbeck, who I don't think is on the screen, but she's over to forward in the room, and Parks Supervisor Perry Schmidt, who's on my far right, will also be presenting portions of the plan and are available to answer questions from the public. We have a number of other senior staff members also available to provide information on the plan and on the proposed 2017 budget. Carrie Ann Polson from our Finance and Administration Department and Communications Manager Connie Jorgensen are coordinating the live stream presentation and the online input moderation. The district is facing a number of challenges as we plan for our 2017 operations and for the next 5 years. Most of us understand that the cost of living is rising. What many may not know is the cost of goods needed to provide local government services is increasing at a higher than average inflation rate. According to a study done by the City of Edmonton, the cost of the goods and services that local government buys increased more than consumer inflation by an additional 1 to 2.5% each year since 2010. So for the last 7 years, it's been increasing between 1 and 2.5% more than the regular rate of inflation. For many of those years, this has meant that inflation for local government was nearly double the level of general inflation. Seashelt is also growing. The recently released census data put our population over 10,000 residents. With growth comes new demands and challenges. Our infrastructure is aging, and with age comes the need for increased maintenance and eventually replacement. It is with those changing factors in mind that I invite our community to participate in developing our financial plan and setting Seashelt on a path to financial stewardship and financial sustainability. I will now turn the microphone over to Doug Stewart, our Chief Financial Officer, for an overview of our draft financial plan. Again, if any members of our online audience have questions, submit them at any time. For our live audience, we will be taking questions in about 10 minutes following the introduction of the plan. Mr. Stewart?
Thank you, Your Worship, and welcome everybody. As the Mayor said, most of what we're going to talk about tonight is in our draft financial plan that you can find online. What I'll provide tonight is a summary of what's in here and some of the highlights that you'll see in the plan. So you see the plan that we put together now, it focuses on building a long-term strategy or sustainability for Sechelt. We've had reserves and surpluses have been steadily declining for the last 10 years. The plan you'll see is outlines the estimated cost for 2017 to 2021, and they're broken into two categories: the operating budget that I'll be going through, and the capital plan for the various divisions and programs, which some other people here will be introducing for you as well. So as the Mayor said, tax increases have not been kept up to pace for the last few years, and we have an increased capital funding is required to maintain our assets. We actually haven't been maintaining our assets at the level we should, and we haven't been putting money away to maintain those assets, so you'll see some increases in the budget for that. We've also got other increases for staffing, water treatment center, natural gas, hydro, and the economic growth is approximately 2%, so that helps offset the costs. And in this budget, you'll see there's no service levels anticipated for 2017, nor are there any changes to service levels that we provided in 2016. So the financial plan process, we started this about last August and September, putting together a plan, meeting with the various managers. We reviewed the plan in December. It came to the Finance Committee to talk about. I introduced a lot of the information then. From now till April, we'll be doing more meetings with the Finance Committee to go through the plan, have them make some decisions through their deliberations, and through April and May we'll be adopting the financial plan and having the tax rate bylaw by May 12th, as the Mayor said. So on property assessments, this is something that's come up for a number of people. As you can see, the average increase in property assessments was 24.6% from 2016 to 2017. Non-market changes, this is growth, added up to about $22.7 million for Sechelt. That's the 2% growth that we refer to that will bring in additional revenue for Sechelt over and above any tax increase. One point to make, though, is property tax assessment increases do not directly translate to tax increases, because taxes are based on the budget requirements we need, and that's how we determine the taxes rate, what it will be. We have a short video here that will better explain how property assessments apply to property taxes.
I want to explain to you how assessment and taxation work. Let's start off by creating a small town with only 3 houses. Each house is different and has a different value. The first house has a market value of $200,000. The second house has a value of $250,000. The third house is valued at $350,000. The city supplies services, and the money to pay for these services is recovered through property taxation. Let's imagine that the town needs to collect $1,200 to pay for these services. To calculate the tax rate, you divide the cost to provide services by the total assessed value of all the properties in the town. This establishes a tax rate. Now, to calculate how much tax each home pays, we multiply the tax rate by the assessment. As you can see, the first house would pay $300, the second home would pay $375, and the highest valued home would pay $525. Let's summarize what we've covered so far. 1. Assessment places a market value on each property. 2. The total assessment is used to calculate the tax rate. And 3. Taxes pay for the cost of city services, like roads, fire protection, snow removal, parks, etc. Let's imagine that another year has passed and that property values have increased by 4%. Now, let's imagine that the cost of providing services has remained the same, $1,200. The tax rate is the cost of services divided by the total assessment. The result is that all owners still pay the same tax as before because the cost of services has not changed. Let's summarize what we've covered so far. 1. Assessment increase does not necessarily mean more taxes are collected. 2. If all assessments go up equally, everyone pays the same as long as the cost of services stays the same. Now, let's imagine another year passed and values did not increase at the same rate. Home 1 remained at the same value, $208,000. Home 2 increased by 1%, $262,600. And Home 3 increased 3%, $374,920. The cost of services stayed the same at $1,200. Here's the math. $1,200 divided by the new assessment total equals the new tax rate. The net effect of the new values sees House 1 paying less tax and the house that went up 3% paying a higher proportionate share. If all assessments do not go up equally, there's a redistribution of the tax. However, the total tax collected remains the same. What happens if the cost of services goes up? Let's do the math. Services now cost $1,400. The result is a different tax rate. As you can see, an increase in service cost results in a tax increase. But suppose that the cost of services went up, but also one more home was now built in the town and it was worth $300,000. The new total assessment is now $1,145,520. This results in a new tax rate. The new house now helps pay for the cost of services, and the result is that everyone pays less. This is a hypothetical representation of how the process works. The key points are: 1. Total assessment value is used to calculate tax rates. 2. An increase in property value does not always mean an increase in taxes. 3. New construction helps pay the overall tax burden. 4. Taxes are based on the cost of providing services that citizens want and need. And that explains how assessment and taxation work.
All right, so hopefully that video helped explain better than I could how taxes and assessments work and how a large increase in tax assessments doesn't necessarily mean an increase in taxation for everybody. This chart here actually shows what will happen in Seashell. As you can see, with a 24.76% change, the tax rate's actually going to go from 2.9 down to 2.3, which ultimately result in everyone paying the same amount of taxes if their assessment went up by 24.76%. Added to that is the tax rate increase that we're talking about, the 5.74% now, so the average home will pay $1,324 in municipal taxes. So I'm now going to go through the sort of highlights of the changes in the general fund and what caused the increase in taxes. As we can see, it's 5.74%. So on the revenue side, we are anticipating increased revenue from engineering for service agreements, and planning applications are anticipated an increase of $28,000. This is from increased activity from the planning side. We also went through our budget and looked at 3-year averaging and determined that we could probably anticipate another $9,000 in revenue just from what we're seeing in the increased trend in other revenue sources. And we had some other miscellaneous changes for about $3,500. And we're also anticipating a decrease in grants in lieu. This is money we receive from the provincial government and their agencies where they pay us money in lieu of taxes. And based on last year's numbers, we're looking at about a $7,000 decrease in the revenue for them. On the expense side, we've got a fair number of increases. One of the big ones is the cost for the existing staff of $188,000. This is to annualize positions that are in the budget now but weren't in the budget in 2016 for a full year because we had vacancies at the beginning of 2016. So now these people are here, we have to pay the full cost for them. That's an additional $188,000. We also found that in the budgets we had insufficient funds in certain areas in the budget, primarily on the supply side of things. About $64,000 in parks and public works and property management. It was really just an issue that they were overspending every year, so the supply budgets just were not sufficient to cover those costs. We also had $35,000 in building maintenance fees or building maintenance costs that we just found traditionally we were overspending on those budgets, so we had to increase those. Council did approve an increase in staffing levels, 2 managers and an EA for a cost of about $67,000 hitting the general fund. There's also an increase on the sewer fund for that increase as well. We have the ICSP project of $75,000 that Council approved us to move forward with, but $60,000 in RCMP costs. That's an anticipated 4% increase in the cost of RCMP services. Library debt repayment. The debt was extinguished, but we're moving that now to the library grant to take on additional costs and do the studies now to finish the renovation project. Vehicle maintenance costs and legal expenses are anticipated to go up this year. We did have a subsidy in solid waste. In the previous years, the general fund taxation was actually funding part of the solid waste activity. To eliminate that subsidy, we're actually moving those costs to solid waste, which is reducing the property tax requirement by about $50,000. We're also transferring administration costs. These are costs for human resources, finance, IT, communications that were borne by property taxes that really should have been paid by sewer users, as these were the costs proportionately to provide the sewer services. We've added a contingency budget of $200,000. It's a fairly large increase. We had no contingency in the budget before. Part of this is to cover negotiated wage increases that are in the process of being finalized, and also just to increase have a contingency budget just for unexpected budget impacts. Just to put it in perspective, although it seems like a large number, this is about 1.5% of our budget, so it would imply that the budget still has to be 98.5% accurate without us running into any issues. One of the other larger increases we've got is to increase capital funding by approximately 3%. As I said earlier, we are not maintaining our assets at the level we should, and we need to start putting money away. Our assets depreciate by about $2.5 million a year, so essentially we should be actually maintaining or spending about $2.5 million a year to maintain those assets to keep them up to the level we want. We're proposing a 3% increase every year going forward until we get to that full recovery. So it's approximately $200,000 every year we'll be increasing the budget by to start being able to maintain the assets that we own. Some other expenses, these are more minor ones. We've got other miscellaneous expenses, about $22,000. The Trail Bay Wharf, went out of commission last year because of the storm, so we removed the budget. We hopefully to get that back into commission this year, so we'll have to put that budget back. And we had some other small increases for hydro, natural gas, and water charges. One of the other exercises we did was look at all the budgets for the last 3 years, and if departments weren't spending a budget, we anticipated that they wouldn't need those funds, but they could still maintain the same service levels, and through that exercise, we're able to reduce the budget by about $27,000 without affecting services. So on the sewer side, you see an increased revenue of about $25,000. That's from increased septage fees based on the anticipated or what we've been able to do for the last few years. And again, like the general fund, we've got increases for existing staff and some staff level increases I mentioned earlier. Council approved those. Large increase on costs of $132,000. That's primarily for the resource center. Just as it's coming on to full operation, those costs are now increasing, and we're getting a better handle on what it's costing to provide to run that plant. We're going to be doing a liquid waste management plan this year for $50,000. Some other issues is primarily with the resource center. As I said, it's now running out on warranty, so a lot of the equipment that was being repaired on warranty will now have to be paying for. So we're anticipating $50,000 to maintain the equipment that was previously covered under warranty. Insurance will be added. We've got some training, and again, some additional costs for water to the treatment plant. We added some lift stations, adding about $1,500 costs, and hydro is anticipated to go up. So in summary on this, on the property tax side, you'll see we're showing an increase of about $580,000. With the 2% growth, we'll generate about $165,000, so we need about $417,000 to balance the budget. To do this will be a tax increase of just over 5.7%, the cost of the average home was $72. On the sewer side, you can see a fairly large increase of $599,000. A large part of this is the transfer of administration costs from the general fund. With a 2% increase in sewer, it's going to bring an additional $100,000. And so with the rate increase of 28% to generate $491,000, which will cost the average home about $173 a year. And finally, on solid waste, we're anticipating an additional cost of about $67,000. Most of this is from the contract to collect the recycling products. We do anticipate the 2% growth, so we'll have to raise levies by about 5.5% to generate the additional $47,000. The cost of this is about $10 to the average home. So to summarize all this for you, you can see the property tax increase, sewer, solid waste. So the total charge, total increase of $957,000, which on average is about 9.68% on total costs. So to put that into the cost of the total home, as I summarized before, $72 for property taxes, $10 for solid waste. If those are the only services you receive, it'll be an $82 increase for the average home. If you also have sewer to your property, an additional $173 for a total of $255. And as I said, this is a total increase on your charges of about 9.7%. Finally, looking at the 5-year surplus, this is one of the reasons why the tax increase is required. As you'll see from that 2016 column, we anticipated drawing the surplus down by $700,000 in 2016. We're hoping it's not going to be that much. We haven't finalized our year-end numbers, so we're hoping to come in lower than that. But if that happens, you'll see we're actually in a deficit position of $623,000 at the end of 2016. The 5-year plan, as you can see, that transfer to surplus is approximately $150,000 a year. That's that third from bottom line. Bringing the surplus balance by the time we get to 2021 back into a surplus, which is where we need to be. To get there, as you'll see, the property tax increase, 5.74%, as I indicated for 2017. 2018 right now is at 7.5%, and then 5% every year after that. One thing I should caution in there, because I realize it may seem like a large number, factored into that is that 3% increase for capital, increased capital funding that I mentioned. So as you can see, from 2019 to 2021, if you take out that additional 3%, we're looking at approximately 2% tax increase, which is essentially the rate of inflation. And just some other large numbers to show you. This is the total debt of the district. By the end of 2016, the total debt held by the district is $8.8 million. We anticipate by the end of 2017, it'll rise to about $10.5 million. That's to take on the debt for the library renovation project and the public works building, and also to continue on the paving program. And then as you see after that, we stop borrowing money and the debt slowly starts to go down as every year we start to make debt payments. And I won't go through this slide, but if you're interested, you can see this is where the total debt is held at the end of the year. The last two lines there show where most of the debt is, $2.3 million at the RCMP building, and still carrying almost $6.3 million for the Water Resource Center. So that's the operating budget highlights. Do we have any questions?
We have received a few questions. I believe we're just going to bring those up on the screen now. The first one I believe you've already answered, but I'll just read it out in case you have any other comments to add. So the first question is, as seniors on a fixed income, we do not agree with an increase of our property taxes as the district is already seeing the on-paper increase in property assessments, which is they've assumed is an increase in taxes. Did you want to add any clarification to that summary and video that we already saw this evening?
Not much more other than to reiterate for people that the change in assessments, as long as your assessment was increased by less than 24% or 24.76%, you will not see an increase in taxes as a result of that assessment increase.
Next up is about deferment. Why are property owners who defer their property taxes unable to defer property fees such as sewer and solid waste?
Well, the tax deferment program is actually a provincially run program. We simply administer it on behalf of the province. It essentially is a loan program. The province pays the taxes to the district, attaches those costs to on title on your home, and when you sell your home, you have to repay those taxes with interest to the province. And basically right now, the province does not allow for property fees to be deferred, simply property taxes. So it's under the provincial jurisdiction. We have no say in that.
Okay. Another question that's been trending is about the liquid waste management plan. Maybe we can hear some clarification on that. We would also like to know why residents on sewer would be required to be the sole source of funding for the liquid waste management plan of $55,000 when that plan would deal with the whole of the district. Would this cost not be more equitably charged by transferring it back to taxpayers?
Okay, well, that's actually a good question. The mayor brought that same question up to me a little while ago as well, and actually I think we actually agree with that. I didn't want to change it tonight, primarily because I wanted to match what was in the book and what was described at the Finance Committee. But this actually will be something we'll be bringing to the next Finance Committee with a recommendation to move it to property taxes. So I definitely appreciate that question.
Okay, along those same lines, there was a follow-up question wondering why 14% of the total administrative costs of the district need to be transferred to sewer users in order to supervise 7% of the staff. They were interested in hearing a breakdown of the $338,000 transfer.
Okay, so there's a few things in here. One, although it's 7% of the staff, that's actually 7% of all the staff. To do the calculation here, you actually have to remove the staff that are part of the administration pool that's being reallocated. When you do that, it actually works out to about 13% of the staffing budget is for those non-administrative personnel in sewer and in the general fund. Also, if I looked at just the costs of providing for supplies, the Sewer Water Resource Center, or the sewer fund, actually picks up about 16% of the total cost of supplies. When I did the calculation on 14%, really to make it easier and going forward and to not complicate things, trying to allocate human resources based on staffing and finance resources based on number of invoices paid, we simply looked at the total operating budgets for the general fund versus the sewer fund, and it worked out to 14%. Based on a detailed calculation, it still comes out to about 14%. So this was an easier way to calculate it, a simpler way to do it, and a way for us to move forward.
Okay. If we have time for one more question in this section, there was one more related to sewer and septic. First, knowing that septic fields have a limited time span and that costs for replacement are now in the range of $20,000 plus, we wish to know if the council wishes to encourage residents to be included in the sewer system or whether it wishes to set up disincentives for such inclusion.
I believe Sanath.
The district sewer system, if the sewer lines available within the close proximity of this of their properties. Okay. So there's two bylaws that enforce the district staff, the resident to enforce to hook up the sewer within 2 years period when the sewer service available that property owners, the residents.
Okay.
All right, so we're now going to go through the capital plan by department, basically going through each of the projects in real quick summary, let you know what the projects are and what's moving forward. I believe first up is Parks, and Perry Schmidt will be doing that.
If I can just interrupt here, if there's any questions from those that are in the audience, just raise your hand so people can see that and we'll interrupt, but otherwise we'll assume that
This one was brought forward by the West Seashell Association. We built Dr. Walter Burtnick Park a number of years ago, and the pathway that comes from the top main entrance of the park at Micah Road has had a number of washouts over the years. We've put in various attempts to mitigate that, some drainage, some roll curbing. Nothing's worked, so we're looking at possibly putting in some permeable pathways similar to what's at Rockwood, which not only give you a hard surface, but actually do a wonderful job of drainage as well. One of the projects that we're in the planning stages for this year, but I just came from an open house in Roberts Creek that we had today, and there's another open house on Wednesday night in Seashell from 3 till 6 o'clock to come and have the public offer their views on some of the options for putting the Sun Coaster Trail through Seashell. So if you have some thoughts on that, be sure to attend the open house. So I'm not sure if there's any questions regarding any of these parks projects that have come in or from the audience, but I'd be willing to entertain anything right now.
We haven't received any questions yet, but we'll keep an eye out as we go forward in the budget process.
Okay, thank you, Carrie-Ann. I'm going to turn it over to our Public Works Supervisor, John Devison, to talk about some of the projects in the Public Works area. Thank you.
As we can see for 2017 capital plan for Public Works, we have a few things on our plate, some stuff to come from the past. Reference the Public Works Parks building. We'll be moving forward with that. Hopefully we'll be able to put a shovel in the ground by 2018. The municipal office, the new boiler, we're not going to shut it down right now because it'll be kind of cold for the workers, but come the springtime and warm weather, it'll be shut down and the work will commence on that in the spring. Municipal office roof, we have been getting quotes in on repairing that, so we'll be looking forward in the future to patch those holes. Water Resource Center workyard fence. It's for security reasons, as the Water Resource Center has a lot of chemicals and such, and it's an area that should be tapered off and a little bit more secure. Parks did a wonderful job over there with the trail and the garden, but we still have to protect it. RCMP facility reception area. They're going through some changes over there. They're just in the process of what they want to get done and how they would like to do it. There's some leaks above their roof in the reception area, so that's being looked at. Library renovation going forward, and hopefully in 2007 or 2017 be able to get a new backhoe loader, as the one we have going now. It's used quite a bit because it's easy to be mobilized. It doesn't need a trailer. It's self-propelled, and it's getting down to its last legs, and it's a vital piece of machinery for us. Any questions from the audience or any come through the internet?
Yes, we do have one question for Public Works. It's in relation to the work that's being done on the Public Works building, and the future plans for the development of that land parcel. So it may be a question for the Development Planning Department, but I'll read it out here and then we can see. My question is, what will the district do with the extra 3 acres left over from the property surrounding the Public Works Parks building at 5400 Dusty Road that is not needed for the build and which is currently being underutilized? They're asking if the district will subdivide that land or possibly build social development project for affordable housing.
I can certainly take that question. So at this point, we're using approximately 2/3 of the property that we have. That's for the existing yard and what we propose for the new building area. So it's 2/3 of that property is already being used. The other 1/3 ultimately could be used for future storage or expansion. Certainly that could be determined once we start looking at the building plans and what we're going to do. Part of this question talked about possibly consolidating the property with the property next door. It actually wouldn't be possible only because there's a BC Hydro corridor that runs at one end of the property, which doesn't allow for building between those two properties. So that certainly would be a challenge. I say, as far as any excess land, the district will always look into that if there's any opportunities, but we certainly don't want to give up land that we own if we need it for future expansion.
Okay, that was all for Public Works as far as questions.
Thank you very much.
believe Sanath will be taking this next piece, talking about the public works, primarily the water, sewer, and drainage projects.
Thank you. The Trail Bay outfall upgrade. So the District of Seychelles staff conducted a detailed study for the drainage. We had experienced 2014, 2015, some of the roads inundated because of the high water levels and the combination of the storm and high water levels. So Curved Lidl conducted this study and determined how we are going to save our lands without inundate during the winter time and the flood events. So that will need to include the backwater preventer for Seychelles Ocean Avenue and Inlet Avenue. So this 160,000 is for that purpose.
So the Davis Bay Float project, this is one that was in the budget for approximately $50,000. It's now been determined that to do it properly, it's actually going to be approximately $125,000. Therefore, this is being brought forward with an additional request of $75,000 for council to consider.
Any questions on this?
Doesn't appear to be any questions in the audience, and we haven't received any on social media either.
So the ERP project is a project that started in 2014 and it's being continued along. It is an ongoing project that integrates our existing systems to provide management with integrated actionable data for management and planning and being able to work on things like developing the asset management plan. Rather than go to tender with one big system, we are integrating the pieces that we already have. This project's going a little bit slower than anticipated. It'll continue on to 2018, so not as much was completed and quite a bit is being carried forward to next year, mostly due to staffing changes at that management level last year. The website redesign, a large component of it was completed in 2016. During 2017, we're just refining the design, getting some more images, improving our search engine optimization, and applying similar branding to the my.seychelles.ca citizen self-service site. The new computer additions is cost for equipping and getting the 2 new staff set up with appropriate devices for their roles that they'll be having in the organization. The hardware replacement and upgrades is 20% per year that we've budgeted for sort of a 5-year evergreening to keep the staff desktop computers and laptops replaced. We do a cascading rollout, so it's not always the oldest 5 computers, but we try and make sure that the people that's computers are suffering the most and impacting the work that they're doing, that those ones get replaced, but it's pretty close to a 5-year plan. And so many were out of date. There's still quite a few that are still 7 and 8 years old, but we're replacing them in sort of a scaled rollout. The IT infrastructure, I've got a 5-year plan for IT infrastructure for what needs to be replaced every year. We've got quite a sophisticated infrastructure back end that we need to really look ahead to make sure we're proactively replacing things so that we don't have critical failures. I did a system audit and determined that the most critical thing for 2017 is actually software licensing and bringing our infrastructure software license into compliance. It's not in compliance, and if we had a sudden audit, it could be challenging. So that's a priority, and then the next year will be probably the storage array will be needing replaced in 2018. The survey and GPS equipment is a project from last year that I believe the equipment just arrived on site. There's been quite a bit of excitement about that, but it just didn't quite get finished in 2016. Questions?
Again, I don't see any questions in the audience, and we haven't received any on social media at this time. We do, however, have one question for Public Works related to road works, which I'm not sure if we want to go back to that now, and it was just an inquiry to find out if there will be any more bike lanes.
Yes, the District of Seychelles, we had the master plan for the bike lanes and the sidewalk and the pedestrian connectivity. That our plan is very consistent with our OCP. Is connecting West Seychelles, downtown, West Purpose Bay, and East Purpose Bay. So the new developments, it is mandatory to provide bicycle lanes, and pedestrian is a separated. Now the current trend is the bike lanes and the walkways is separated from the driving lanes. So Derby roads and Cowrie Street, that developers, they will provide that the facility for safe alternate transportation system. So basically these are needed for collector and arterial roads. So the part of the Trail Avenue development, we will incorporate the bike lanes and the walking facility in order to provide people's health, and it's mostly the green cities, they develop the alternate transportation modes.
Thank you.
Excuse me, we are having a problem with our YouTube feed. I understand that video is not feeding, but audio is still there. So we are working on a fix, and I'd just like the meeting to continue. You can still send questions in, and we'll have the video restored as soon as we can.
The paving program is a part of our capital works. The roads are one of the main capital asset. In 2016, district paved several meters roads, especially Seychelles Inlet Road and Seaview Road. So every year we will invest about $250,000 for the repaving program. In 2014 and 2015, the district conducted, with the help of McElhaney Engineering, to conduct the road status and the asset management. So part of that, they recommended to improve some of the roads which are not safe and the lifetime is over. So this is a part of our paving program for 5 years, since starting 2017 for 5 years. In 2014 and 2015, the district expand the capacity on Ocean Avenue. So we need to, this is a carry forward work, we need to do some clearing and the grouting of the new pipes. So this is for part of our Ocean Avenue outfall works we have done 2015 and 2016. Trail Avenue alignment, we had the budget last year, 2016, and the RFP called. We received 4 RFPs to do the design. All RFPs above the budget what we have. So we need the additional budget to complete the road design. Once we complete the road design in 2017, upon council approval, we will start the construction 2018 and 2019. This is a DCC project. So Marine Way retaining wall, the design for the Marine Way retaining wall is still underway. This is a very complicated section. There are a few options proposed by our geotechnical engineer, but those options are not cost effective. So we are still negotiating with one cost effective one. Otherwise, we have to spend a lot of money for this. Scana Crescent is a gravel road. The resident in the Scana Crescent area requested to pave the road for the last few years, about I think it's 7-8 years. This is a part of the gravel road paving program. Sewer functional plan for Davis Bay and Selma Park area. So in 2005, the District of Seychelles conducted a similar study for West Seychelles and West Purpose Bay. And so that helped the district staff to submit application for the grants. And we completed one area with the grant, with the help of a grant. And also we submitted 2 applications for another 2 areas to do that. So without the functional sewer plan or study, we cannot request any grant for that. So currently, there are unserviced lots for this area is nearly around 1,000 residents. So that is a very good project. If we can finish this sewer functional plan and then go for grant application for future expansion sewer, that area. So this area is area 2, according to OCP plans, this is area 2, area 3 sewer catchments, as well as this is a part of our urban containment boundary. So our capacity of the treatment plants is enough to service this area. Sewer modeling. So this is a 2016 carry forward work. The sewer modeling, we have not conducted a district sewer system. That will allow us to determine the capacity of the system and also determine infiltration and inflow, which help us to negotiate with the developers to improve the downstream capacity and our lift stations. Highway 101 crossing at Mission Point. This is a joint project between the District of Seychelles and the Ministry of Transportation. And currently the design and the construction design is underway. We received this week the permit for construction, and the Ministry of Transportation will install lights and other infrastructure for the crossing, and the District of Seychelles will provide the safe pedestrian walkway and sidewalk and curb and gutter that area. That will connect Brookman Park and Mission Point Park. The people can safely walk these two, especially once we have that gazebo. So on Mission Point Park, we need to have more parking. The Brookman Park has a parking facility, then people can walk safely onto the Mission Point Park. This is our cycling and walking loop master plan that include several disconnectivity, as you can see, probably between North Bay Road and downtown through Derby Road, the light blue color one. So these light blue color one will be completed by the developers, and the purple one is already we have this, the bike lanes, and the yellow one is our trails that will, you can see, connect the West Seychelles downtown and West Purpose Bay and East Purpose Bay. Any questions with regard to this?
Doesn't appear to be any questions in the audience. There is one question. I'm not sure if it is better referred to development planning, but I'll read it out. Does the 2017 capital budget set aside any funds for the Sea-Watch subdivision repair?
At this point, no, we have not put away any funds for that repair. There's a number of issues with that area that we're dealing with some lawsuits. So at this point, no, there's no money put aside.
Okay. And we're just working to bring the slideshow back up. Should just be a moment or two here. Oh, there it is.
Okay, so the next part of this is looking at additional capital requests. These are projects that are not currently in the capital plan at this moment. Everything else we've talked about, you'll find in the book that we produced in December. These are ones that have not yet been added to the plan, would be bring to the committee for consideration. One is the downtown Wi-Fi, to expand that or to continue with that Wi-Fi service that we have down Cowrie Street for a cost of about $10,000. It's also adding the projector, improving the projectors in this committee room for $7,000. And finally, $10,000. These are for security camera upgrades at various points where we have security cameras now, but they do need to be upgraded as they likely will start to fail. One other thing we've asked for is the community neighborhood associations to provide us with their requests for capital projects. Here's just a quick list of the 7 neighborhood associations that we have in Sechelt. Most of them did provide some suggestions for what they'd like to see in the capital plan. So starting with this one, this is up in the West Sechelt area. This is Mason Road. This is a sidewalk and culvert. It's approximately 244 meters. It'll be a cost of about $160,000 to complete that. Their concern primarily is the ditches and the sidewalk for pedestrians. Next is the Bailey Road sidewalk for $15,000. And again, it's up in the West Sechelt area, and you can see it there on Bailey Road between just past Darby. Sandy Hook Road drainage. This is a flooding caused in the Sandy Hook area. It's about 1,000 meters. The issue is actually the road itself. The water's ponding on there. So it would actually be a redesigning that road for a capital cost of about $250,000. The Scanna Crescent Road paving. This is one actually that was referred to earlier, but it's actually a community request, and it's $93,000 to repave 200 meters of Scanna Road. This is the last unpaved road in the Sandy Hook area, I understand. And finally, on the Jasper Road, this is to primarily deal with putting in a sidewalk and pedestrian access on Jasper Road from Mills down to the Norwest Bay Road. And that's the total community requests that I say are not funded, will be brought to the Finance Committee for discussion at our future meetings. That's the end of the presentation. Any further questions for us?
Doesn't appear to be any questions in the audience. We do have one more question. I believe it's related to the liquid waste management plan with regards to reclaimed water. So perhaps Public Works could speak to that one. Anyway, I'll read the question and then you can decide. The question is, why has Council not pursued other revenue sources to help reduce the sewer levy, for example, pursuing the use of reclaimed water? Cranbrook is currently earning $1.2 million from the sale of its reclaimed water and had the system funded by a federal or provincial grant.
The water source center produce a level 3 effluent. It's a high quality, and we have the plan for reclaimed water. So we are discussing with the several developers to invest and reuse this the reclaimed water.
Thank you. And we have not received any other questions on social media at this time.
I want to thank everybody for your presentations this evening and for the questions that came in over the internet. I'll just add a note to the very last question on the reclaimed water. Before you can sell reclaimed water, you need a buyer, and you actually need somebody who wants that reclaimed water. And since I was first in office in 1998, 1999, we always assumed that the gravel operations would be one of those people most interested. They are not interested, and neither is the golf course. They're both developing their own sources of water from on-site, and right now the gravel operations at Lehigh reclaim 95% of their water, so there's almost no need whatsoever for additional water. And one of the things the community, we all want to use the reclaimed water. We've got the opportunity, but you can't sell it if there's no purchasers. So we want to think that one through, and you want to make sure there's both ends of your plan when you make plans. You have to have a plan, you have to deliver, and you have to have implementation. Blue skying it isn't enough. Dreaming is good, but at the end of your daydreams, you actually need to have a reality check. That's the reality check on reclaimed water. As soon as there's a use, and the first use will probably be within our own public works, we'll be using it for that, and we'll get the permits necessary. And as soon as there's a viable industrial or commercial buyer, we'll be ready for them, absolutely, because we all want to use that. I want to thank everybody who was here in person this evening and our online audiences for your attention and input this evening. We actually appreciate hearing your suggestions and the community input on capital spending, and we'll take the information and the questions that we heard tonight and anything that comes in over the next few weeks into consideration as we put our final touches on the capital plan in particular, but on the operational plan as well. We do want a financial plan that's going to serve us for the next 5 years, so we'll be taking all of this into consideration. I encourage everyone to remain engaged in the process and on this issue as it makes its way through future Finance Committee meetings, council discussions, before the adoption of the financial plan and property tax rate bylaws, which were outlined earlier by Mr. Stewart. This event, along with the proceedings of other meetings related to the financial plan, will be available on our YouTube channel for reference. We have quite an archive of meetings, and it's really useful for people to refer to those. Links to those videos and related documents, including questions that were raised this evening and additional questions that come in, and the responses to those questions will remain available on our Budget 2017 webpage. So we have a special web page for the budget 2017. In closing, many thanks to council, staff in attendance, in particular Carrie Ann, Connie, and Bev for monitoring the internet side of this and the YouTube and the video. Even with the glitches, it's important to do because the glitches disappear and we get better and better at this. So thank you very much. Thank you for all staff who came out tonight working late into the evening, and for everyone else, thank you and good evening.